I've worked on ships for most of my life, and with that, they are exceptionally well organized. Maybe your ship is not, okay? But work planning is like the cornerstone of what we do. So it's not just planning a day in advance; it's planning a month in advance or a voyage in advance. And if you're one of these guys, or a ship, or an organization that wakes up in the morning and say, "Oh, we're going to do this today," then that's not a plan. That's you're just an accident waiting to happen. So the daily work plan itself, or planning your work, is not just about planning your work, because obviously it's not just you. There's if you're on an oil rig, there's a drilling department, subsea, technical department, marine, plus all the contractors. If you're on board ships, it's deck and engine. If you're working on LNG carriers like me, you have the cargo department, and so forth and so on. So a lot of the planning is just minimizing conflicts between department. If you can imagine, you're just looking at yourself with your blinders on. You're a chief officer doing your work, and you want to work on the winches. You want to pull in some moorings, or transfer some wires, or grease some wires, or whatever it is. And that's all you think of as you're doing that, and I'll just plan for it on Monday. There you go. But yet the PMs from the engineering department, they have to do brake tests, and they decide on Monday they're going to do it as well. And if you all get up there on Monday and you want to do the exact same job on a piece of equipment, who defaults and doesn't get their work done? So the planning itself is not just you planning your job; it's also planning how the ship itself, the unit, your office, whoever it is, make sure you all run together simultaneously. Okay. So also then, you're at the beginning of your month. I'm teaching this from a marine perspective. It could be your office as well, but all your PMs come out. And if you plan for your month, so this first week, I'm the chief officer. I'd like to do all my moorings and grease my wires and use the winches for that. Engineers have to do their brake tests, so they'll do that in the second week, and so forth and so on. So you all have a rough idea, and then you're conveying that idea to your crew, and that is key as well. Not just saying the plan is this, okay? You should be telling everyone on board what that plan is and why, because the why is key. If people think, "Oh, we could do this today and get it out of the way, done and dusted," but there's also, it can't do it today because of this, this, and this. And the more you convey that information of the plan, okay, and tell everyone about it, then everyone understands. You're getting more into the generative level in the culture, because now you haven't got to be sitting around telling everyone to do this, 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 and this, because you convey that idea of what we're going to do and why. Everyone understands that next week we're going to do this because of that. Okay, so work planning is obviously making your schedule. You wake up in the morning and say, well, let's do this today. Woohoo! That's not planned. That's that's an accident waiting to happen. So I'm looking at it from a bigger scale, planning interdepartmentally, but also then as well, job specific. You're planning that you're going to need plant isolation, a risk assessment, what kind of people are going to be there, hours of work. Okay, who's going to be awake for this and doing that? Who needs to sleep? Doing it before port, after port. It could be anything. Okay, so it's now you're planning what kind of resources you're going to need: the people, the tools, the equipment, procedural equipment, that you're going to need, these barriers or controls. So the work planning is one of your first steps of organizing all your barriers or controls you're going to put in place to prevent the accident from happening, and doing your job safely and in an organized fashion. Also, I want you to start to think about now the job, and I hear it all the time, especially from, and I'm not criticizing, but I hear from junior engineers usually a lot. "Oh, my job is to do this. I'm an engineer. I'm taking apart this and doing this. Safety is right. That's I don't want to be safety officer. That's the deck department's job, or something like that." And it is not. Okay, I want to be clear to you that the safety culture on board, if you got a guy who thinks that nuts and bolts or is his job, then you have a problem. Okay, because it's not. Your job is now not nuts and bolts or just chipping and painting or navigating. Okay, it's a more a holistic approach, I guess you could call it. All right. I sailed with we had a bunch of contractors who came on board, and they were ex-Navy SEALs. And they tell this great story is their gear was always ready. They're always training, for the next mission. And when they do get called, it's 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, to go out and kill these terrorists or rescue some, person or whatever it is. They go out, all their gear is ready. They know it's ready. They tested it and tried it. It's all ready to go. They go out, they do whatever they do. They kill the bad guy, save the hostage, so forth and so on. They might be out in the field for 5, 6 days, weeks on end, possibly living on very little sleep, living on very little food. The operation's a success. They come back, they're absolutely beat. Do you think they go to bed and then go back and fix their gear? Absolutely not. Okay? They come back, they're, soaking wet, drenched, covered in mud, whatever it is, and they take all their gear apart, clean all their weapons, put it all back together, put it on the shelf, because in 2 hours they might be called again, okay, to go. So what I'm trying to get across to you is the work planning, the actual job itself, that is a very small part of it nowadays with today's HSSE, okay? Now it's all about, and we're going to get into a little bit later, we talk about stage planning and risk assessment in the next chapter. It's, let's say, use chipping and painting, a job that we as mariners do every freaking day, okay? But now it's not just chipping and painting. Now you're thinking about how people are going to be hurt, taking paint cans off the shelf, poof, bad positioning for body work, and stuff like that. Mixing the chemicals, proper techniques. Getting that stuff out there, rigging up your staging, lifting these difficult things, hanging off points. The setup is the first stage, okay? Also then your permits to work, along with that, your risk assessments, your toolbox talk. All of this is part of your job. Then the actual job itself, the chipping and painting, changing a light bulb, whatever the job is, that gets done relatively quickly, okay? Then, as well, it's the cleanup, bringing everything back, testing all your gear, making sure it's ready for the next day, checking if anything is defective, taking it out of service, closing out your permits, right? Make sure all your procedures are done and signed off, and then poof. So when we talk about, I remember when I first started teaching safety, maybe 15 years ago, people always used to think, oh, let's do the job. That's it. The job is this, okay? Well, now we're trying to teach the job is not just this. The job is the prep, the planning, the execution, your resources, getting all that ready, getting it in line, your permit to work, discussing it, making sure everyone understands, then doing the job, okay? If anything's going wrong during the job, stopping, intervening, make sure you're protecting your guys, dynamic risk assessment on the fly as you're going along, then the closeout and so forth and so on. So you can't do a job a 15-minute job in 15 minutes. Can't be done because now you need more time. I can't give you a 30-minute slideshow in 30 minutes. Okay? I need to prep. I need to come in. I need to set up the room, so forth and so on. Present. If we have to keep in mind for talking and branching off and discussions. If I was in room with you, okay. Then the closeout, closing down the room, shutting everything down, getting feedback, so forth and so on. So keep that in mind. People, if you plan properly, okay, then those time constraints of doing a 15-minute job, you can't do a 15-minute job in 15 minutes. You should always give yourself extra time because then you start getting under time constraint, you start to rush, okay? So the planning, saying, look, I need this time to set up. I need this time to do the job. If the job goes a little bit haywire, I'm going to need extra time. Always book that in. Then the closeout. So keep that in mind, a well-organized ship that is well-planned, well thought out. Those guys really very rarely are under time pressure, all right, mentally, because time pressure is a psychological thing. You think, oh, I need to rush, I need to get this job done fast. But if you plan this job is going to take me the whole morning, okay, or whatever it is, whatever time span it is, that is the key to it. Planning it out, understanding what you need, the resources you require, getting it all done, understanding that things will go wrong, okay, and then to accommodate for that. And that is the fundamental steps, all right, work planning. Thank you very much.